Joining us now to give us a technical view of the markets, especially their very ranged behavior over the past few days, is Martin Pring, the technical analyst from the United States. Thank you very much, Martin, for joining us this morning. Well, the Indian markets have been on a consolidation phase. The Nifty is hovering around the 6,000 level for quite a bit now. What's your view on the Nifty for the first half of 2011, for instance? Where are we headed?
There's a good chance of a rally because my short-term momentum indicators are oversold and starting to turn up. Well, I think the big event next year will be what happens in the U.S. market, because the U.S. market's in a secular or very long-term downtrend. And when you overlay the current secular bear, which began in 2000 with the previous secular bears, and the one in Japan, you come to the inescapable conclusion that sometime between now and August, we're going to see a peak, a cyclical peak, and a resumption of the secular downtrend. And when you overlay the Indian market over the U.S. market, you see that since 2000, there's been a reasonably close correlation in terms of directional moves. Obviously, India has been stronger, but the direction has been going the same way as the U.S., basically.
Well, speaking more about the U.S. markets, Martin, what are the levels that you're assuming the U.S. markets will take out from here? I mean, it's been very, very strong the year of 2010 for the S&P 500 at that 1250 or 1260 level, closer to that. It's been, a stiff resistance over there. What is the kind of idea that you're getting on the S&P 500 from these levels? You think it will peak out?
I don't really have any good levels on the S&P, or you can't really draw any terrific trend lines or anything of that nature. But I think the one thing to bear in mind is that sentiment is extraordinarily bullish at the present time when you're looking at polls, or whether you're looking at put-call ratios and moving averages of those or what have you. It's at a very, very high level. And typically when you're at a high level like that, you get some kind of a correction. And I suspect that as we move into the new year, we'll get some kind of a correction. The question will be, will that be the beginning of a new bear market, or will it just be an intermediate correction before it goes up and makes new highs into, say, April or August? And that's what I don't know.
Okay. And given the kind of combination or correlation that India has had with the U.S. markets and the global indices, what's the general sense that you're getting for the Indian markets in 2011?
I think the Indian market's probably, in terms of direction, going to take its instructions from the U.S. If the U.S. is able to go on and make new highs after this correction I'm looking for in early part of the year, then I think there's a good chance that India can go through that 6,300 level in the Nifty. But I think it depends a lot on what happens in the U.S. and also what happens in China, because the Chinese market, as you know, has been quite weak recently, and they're further along the business cycle than the rest of the world, because they've already started tightening up with higher interest rates. And that's something that we're going to have to watch very closely next year, is what happens to interest rates.